Welcome back to the Creatively Curious podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walter. In this week's episode, I'll be talking about stage 2 of the life cycle. And so in the previous episode, I talked about stage 1 of the change cycle, not life cycle, which was death and rebirth. So basically just a very quick summary of square one. Stage 1 is that stage is really about pain, and pain from actual events that have happened to us and for us, and then also pain that we create in our lives based on our painful thoughts and painful beliefs. And so there's a lot of breaking down of those painful thoughts and painful beliefs, so that we can kind of move past those to more helpful thoughts and beliefs, and then giving ourselves space and time to grieve those things that we need to grieve. And interestingly, before I started to record this episode, I saw a post from someone that I follow on Instagram who talks about grief openly and honestly. And I think that there definitely needs to be more of that in our world. I spoke in last week's episode about the fact that our culture, our society here in North America, probably the Western world, doesn't really do a good job of holding space for grief. And, really grief, there's a lot of grief that we experience throughout our lives, and people just want to kind of move on quickly past it, but that just doesn't work. It's not helpful. And when we kind of shove stuff down to make other people comfortable, really that can be quite, it's not good for us. It's, doesn't serve us. And, that kind of thing can start showing up even physically in our lives. So just important to find a safe space for you to process that grief. And really, that can take a long time, and grief never goes away. I don't know if I mentioned that either. We just learn to move on with that grief. And I, maybe because I'm a painter, liken it to a canvas where there's all those layers behind the finished piece, behind the finished painting. So those layers will be there in your life as well, that you've experienced those things that feel really hard and feel painful, and the pain does sort of lessen, but it's always there. You're always kind of carrying those pieces with you, and that makes you who you are. So if we could be a culture and a society that is more aware of that and open to that, I feel like that would be beneficial to us all. But today's episode, I'll be talking about square 2 of the change cycle. And why is the change cycle important? For me as a life coach, oftentimes we are moving people through the life cycle. So they come to us in varying stages, and you can be in various stages of the life cycle, change cycle, depending on the category of your life. So things could be going great in one area, maybe your relationships, but not so great in your career, or vice versa. Like there's, you can be in different stages of the cycle depending on what it is that we're talking about. So it's not like, you're in grief totally 100% for everything and then you move on. It's usually different areas of your life. You're experiencing different categories of the change cycle. But it's just important to be aware that it is a cycle. And last episode I mentioned it's like the seasons, and then it's like a spiral up. So generally we see progress being like a straight line, but it's more of we're constantly going through these different stages of the change cycle, and that slowly or quickly we'll be moving like a spiral upwards, so growing and changing and improving, but potentially and basically definitely going back through all of the stages of change. And more, the more quickly our lives change and technology and all of that, we're going through these stages more quickly than we ever have. So square two is dreaming and scheming. And I'm taking this based on Martha Beck's work. I'm a Martha Beck trained life coach, and I will link to an image of the change cycle that she references, which is how a caterpillar changes into a butterfly. And so square two is where the caterpillar is in the chrysalis, so the cocoon. It has melted down in square one, and now in square two, it is changing into the butterfly. So the imago cells are growing and doing what they need to do, and that butterfly is being created in that cocoon. So change is happening, but you can't see it. So it's more internal. It's quiet. Sometimes you might be able to see it if people start displaying their image differently. So wearing different earrings or having a different haircut or hairstyle or color, different clothes, things like that can be representative of changes happening in the square two. There'll be lots of, as the kind of title of this square two would lead us to believe, there's lots of dreaming. So maybe you're having visions of what your future might look like. Maybe you're writing that down. You could be actually having more vibrant dreams at night. I know that's something that happens with me when I'm feeling more of like I'm moving into this area of the change cycle. My dreams get really vivid. I'll remember more of them. I actually did take a dream. It was a lucid dreaming course. So it was a course to learn how to become lucid in my dreams. So basically aware that I'm dreaming, but still asleep, which I feel like I did achieve. But generally, when I became aware that I was sleeping, then I ended up waking up. So I still have to work on that. But some of the tips of that course were, especially if you're somebody who doesn't remember their dreams, which we will forget them if we don't kind of do practices to remember, is to write down your dreams. So lots of times, thank you, perimenopause, I'm waking up, early in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock, sometimes earlier. And I will generally have remembered a dream. But then what they say is when you go back to sleep from that time, that is a great time to be able to remember your dreams and to potentially get lucid. So one of the tips is to write down your dreams. So it's kind of hard to do that in the middle of the night with a journal and a light and all of that, for me at least. So I would just type a few notes into my phone, and generally that wouldn't make me stay up longer. Like I know sometimes if I end up doing something when I wake up at that time, then then I'm awake and I can't go back to sleep. But if I'm just typing on my phone and I'm not turning on any lights, generally that would help me remember those dreams. And then part of my life coach training with Martha Beck was doing dream analysis, which is actually a really fun part of the training and fun. I've always loved dreams. I've always been somebody who does dream quite vividly, and I remember my dreams. So being able to go through someone else's dream and support them through it. So oftentimes, when I've had a coach take me through a dream, I've picked a dream that I would consider to be a nightmare, something that scared me. And I have lots of dreams that involve water and like kind of tsunami level, like almost I'm in a building and it's flooding, stuff like that. And when I've gone through those dreams with a coach, those even that image like of the water, whatever it is that's sort of scaring me, has been a positive message to me. So that's pretty neat and pretty interesting. And so if you have a recurring dream, it doesn't even matter if it's a recurring dream, but that you've ever wanted to almost even like just make peace with, even if you're just curious about what it means, please reach out. I would love to offer even just like one session to do that. I don't often offer one-off sessions, but for dreams, it can be helpful just to do like a little bit longer of a session to go through the different symbols of the dream. Anyway, that can be really fascinating. But the whole point is that in this stage of the change cycle, you may notice that you start dreaming more. And generally, those dreams would be positive. You can definitely go through and do a dream analysis on positive dreams as well. But in order to get into the practice of remembering your dreams, it's helpful to write them down. It's almost like the dream itself appreciates being noticed and having a voice. And then you'll remember your dreams more and more. And then it becomes pretty exciting to look back and see what you've dreamed about. And then again, if you have questions, then you can reach out to someone who does those analyses. But this whole stage is quite fun because you get to not limit yourself, which working with people as a life coach, that's one of the things I would say is that people really, really limit themselves. Like, oh, I'd love this, but I can't afford it. Or, oh, I want to do this, but I don't have the time. And so I would encourage you, if you are at this stage, is to not limit yourself at all. Like, there's no limits. Money's not a limit. Time is not a limit. You get to dream and scheme whatever it is that you want to do, because if already in the dreaming stage you're limiting yourself, then you just can't do that. Obviously, when you move on to stage 3 and you start gathering real information, well, maybe you can't afford that specific thing, but I would push back on that as well, because I think if it's something that's important enough to us, you can save over time, you could cut expenses elsewhere. I feel like there's always a way if it's important to you. And, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Maybe it will be something that happens in 5 years, but if you already are sort of cutting yourself off from that dream, you'll never experience it. And I think we do that to keep ourselves safe, because we're afraid a lot of times to go after those dreams. This stage isn't for that. It's not for putting limits. It's just literally like pie in the sky. Everything goes. I talk about something I like to call airy fairyland. So in airy fairyland, anything is possible. Literally anything and everything is possible. So if you could move yourself in this stage to airy fairyland, where anything and everything is possible, what would you dream for yourself? And then notice how you feel, because most of the time, whatever it is that we want, we're wanting to achieve a certain feeling through that. So what is that feeling that you're wanting to achieve? What is that feeling that you really would love to experience? And feel that when you're thinking about all those things that you're dreaming about. And then notice how you can achieve that feeling even if you haven't achieved that dream, because you're feeling it. You feel that when you're thinking about that dream, when you're imagining it. And and then I guess, like a lot of people say, is not to be attached to the details, but be attached, or not attached, but basically attached to the feeling. So what feeling do I want to achieve? And then let yourself feel that now. and be that kind of as your goal. And the details can look however they look, and they may change over time, and that's okay. So right now it's just to be in airy fairyland, to feel as good as you can allow yourself to feel. And I had written down a quote recently that said, maybe I can find it here. Will you allow yourself to feel content? Will you allow yourself to feel content? And I just love that, because no matter what we have going on, we can kind of make space for that feeling, the contentness, the peacefulness. Like, I never strive to feel joy. I don't know why. I'm like, I don't love to do that, but I do strive to feel peaceful and to feel grounded. And yeah, like that's what I always kind of want to achieve. So ask yourself what you want to feel. Take yourself into airy fairyland where anything and everything is possible, and don't censor yourself. Don't constrain yourself in this space, and write things down. That actually leads me to a practice that I do every year, which is basically like dreaming and scheming. And I believe it's based on Martha Beck. Oh, I can't find it now where she talked about it, but I write down 100 things that I want to achieve every year. And some of them are completely outrageous, wildly impossible goals. Some of them are more achievable. But again, in airy fairyland, everything is achievable. So everything is possible. And last year, I believe, maybe it was 2 years ago, I wrote them down as though they had already happened. So like past tense, which I feel like if we're writing things down like, oh, I want to do this, then we're signaling that we haven't done that. And that has a different feeling in my body compared to when I write down that I have achieved it. And then I can kind of feel how I would feel when I do achieve that thing. And I like that feeling more than feeling like I haven't achieved it or I don't have that in my life. So that's why I chose to write things down as though they had already happened. And I'll just, I actually do it in my journal. So I just write 1 to 100. It takes up a few pages. And I write down kind of random, some huge, some small things that I want to see happen in my life. So same thing for you. You can do this in the dreaming. It can be work things. It can be personal things. You might want to, I ran a marathon and in this city and I feel amazing about it or whatever. It can be anything and everything. So that's one thing I love to use to help me dream too about my future. Let's see if I have, another thing I like to do, and stay tuned because I think I'm going to be having a virtual vision board extravaganza, is vision boarding. So I love getting magazines. It's sometimes hard to, you can purchase magazines, but lots of times people don't have magazines around anymore, but the libraries often will get rid of older magazines. So that's a good place to look, is to get some magazines, cut out some pictures, and based on how you want to feel in the future, and then what things you've thought up in your dreaming and scheming phase, is to create a vision board of those things. Now, lots of times people will do those electronically, so you can use Pinterest for that. Canva is a good place to do that as well. I'm definitely like a cut it out, glue it on type of a person, so I will do that physically, and then I leave it out where I can see it in my bedroom generally, so I will see it regularly. And it's, you could even do both. You can have an electronic one for your computer or your phone, so you always have something there that you're looking at. or physically. So that's an option for you too. And then I had mentioned, experimenting with, different hairstyles, different clothes. That even comes into play in your home. So if there's anything that you don't love or that you want to upgrade. So I feel like I've been on kind of a slow journey to upgrade things, and they don't have to be huge. Like, I want a new pair of pajamas, which seems kind of silly, but I've been used to purchasing my pajamas from Costco. You know what? I can do better. And I did that for socks too. Everyone has the Puma, or not everyone, but the ladies will have the Puma socks that Costco, at least here in Canada, sells. So I've been on a silent protest of the Puma socks. So I've been purchasing smart wool socks, which also is a smart choice here for our colder climate here in Canada. But things like that, like it's easy just to buy things from Superstore or Costco, but how does that make me feel when I know like everyone and anyone has the same socks, or the same pajamas? And then just little changes like that you can make that notice how you feel, when you and I don't believe you have to spend a bazillion dollars. Like, I don't need Gucci pajamas, but maybe I need pajamas that aren't from Costco. I'm just trying to think of other things that I've upgraded. We did upgrade our bed, which I had a bed frame that literally I made from a kitchen cupboard when I first moved out in my 20s, and I've had it I think for 20 years. So it was time to say goodbye, even though it was like a solid sturdy wood bed frame that I made because I'm creative like that. I decided it was time to get a new bed frame, and I love my new bed frame, and I feel very held and nurtured, and it's very comfortable. It's almost like a cloudy, woomy type. It's fabric, and there's sides all around. There's a footboard, a headboard, little sideboard. So I love how that makes me feel too. So that was a bigger purchase, but think of anything in your home that you might want to change. And then it's something we call a butterfly effect, is like one little change there can affect so many other areas. And if it's changed how you feel about yourself, about your space, then that has a ripple effect out into the world around you. And again, it doesn't have to happen all at once. It's just little small steps that you can take that make a big difference. And so the same is true of your creativity. Small, consistent steps. Same thing is true of exercise. Be consistent. It doesn't have to take hours and hours, half an hour a day. Do something to move your body. Same thing with your mind. Meditating, 15, 20 minutes. Just notice your thoughts. All of these changes that a person wants to make, they come about from small, consistent changes, small consistent steps that you take. So it's not as overwhelming as you think. You can do it. I believe in you. Okay, so that is stage 2, square 2, stage 2, square 2. I keep just intermixing those of the change cycle. I'm going to be posting up an image of the change cycle that I'm referring to from Martha Beck in the show notes of this podcast. If you have any questions, please reach out. If you like this podcast, please rate, review this podcast, and share it with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I'll have all my links where you can reach me. And if you're interested in doing a dream analysis, I'd love to help. For me, it's been really just peace of mind. And actually, interestingly, when I've gone through those dreams that I would consider kind of a nightmare with a coach, I don't have those dreams anymore. So it's really kind of been a relief for me to go through them and know that the message has been positive. And it's just, it's just a like kind of an interesting, different tool that I have that I can help support you with. So please reach out if you have any questions, and I will see you next time on the Creatively Curious podcast. Take care.